Welcome to this Flight Simulator update movie. In this movie we're gonna fly and look at the city of Perth, which has been updated to Photogrammetry. So as you can see we're flying, but we're flying pretty high because you can see the harbor here and some other nice scenery there. So what we're first gonna do is we're first gonna descend, of course, let's say the altitude. So let's go inside the aircraft. Let's descend and also let's turn the aircraft a bit because we want to descend, I would say a lot, because we're flying far too high, as you can see. So in Perth there are multiple points of interest being added to the city itself, and also the photogrammetry update has been applied to the city. Yesterday we flew over Sydney, which also received a nice update. With a lot of, let's say, additions. I received some feedback on that from somebody who looks like to be, I would say, the local there, and he told me that it's, well, it looks realistic, but he also told me, hey, there are some things which I would say are weird because it looks like that they use some old Bing maps because there's a lot of expansion taking place as we speak in Sydney, which was not, let's say, part of the world update. And let's say that's kind of what you see normally also with world updates, right? They are using the Bing maps, and not all the Bing maps are 100% updated. I think the same thing is for Google Maps. That's the same thing, right? That's always the challenge if you use that piece of data. So while we're flying, right, we're turning around because we want to, I would say, fly low over the city. If you ask me how are you controlling the aircraft, well, I'm doing that using the Xbox controller. Because I'm playing this on the Xbox, right, I want to have the 4K resolution because I think that's really nice. The challenge is that the Xbox controller is not really suitable for controlling an aircraft or controlling aircraft games. It's not specifically Flight Simulator, but there are, I would say, also the other flight games which are hard to control. In the meantime, we need to keep an eye on the speedometer. We're descending still. So roughly we want to be around 2,000 feet or something, maybe a little bit lower, to get an insight on what we can see. Right, so let's switch to the outside. And we can also look at the city itself. Right, you can already see some content over there. You can see that the, I would say, descent rate is, I would say, pretty steep. Let's go inside the aircraft again. And here we can have a look, right? So below us we can see the harbor of Perth, including some nice ships. If we look a little bit further, we can see the coastline. So we're gonna turn and fly over the city. You can see some ships, although the ships look weird, right? Half of them are under the water. But hey, that's how it is. Let's say it becomes kind of normal that we do see ships like that. So right in front of us there's the city itself, right? You can see the towers already. Increasing the throttle a bit. As which was decreasing the throttle. So if we would go outside now, we can have a close look at the scenery. Increase the speed a little bit more because else we're going too slow, as you can see. So we need to keep an eye on the altitude because we're now flying pretty low. You can see that we're flying roughly 1,000 feet, or just below 1,000 feet. You can see that the I would say the outside part of Perth didn't receive an update that much. It looks like that they focused more on the city center, and that's what you would say normally see with those world updates, right? They're mainly focusing on the city centers. They're sometimes adding some point of interest outside of the city center, which are really interesting. So in this case also you see that the, I would say, outside part of the city, right, it looks pretty impressive. It looks really detailed, but probably the most nice parts will come when we arrive at the city center itself, which is right in front of us. See, it's nice weather. It's really early in the morning in Perth, Australia. Some other buildings right on the other side. Those have also been added. So a lot of stuff has been added, to be honest, right? So I was kind of hoping that they already did that piece because it's really cool to see what those world updates are adding to the scenery. Some of the scenery is already great in the first, I would say, without the world update. But in most cases they will add, I would say, a lot of detail to the maps. There is always some discussion about it on the internet, right? Some people prefer to have the Google Maps integrated. There are also add-ons to do that, but I always try to stick with the original data. See that the Xbox, I'd say, has some issues with it, right? So there were some frames per second drops. So you can see that even a heavy console sometimes has some issues with this. So if you ask me, how do you prefer to control Flight Simulator? Well, probably it's better to buy a joystick or something to control it, because you can see that this one, I would say, flying this is nasty. Normally I also play it on my PC, which I would say allows me to control the aircraft better. But unfortunately that one isn't, I would say, it doesn't have the specs to record in 4K. While the Xbox of course has. Although you can see that it still sometimes struggles a bit. So we're close by to the city. So let's see what they've made of it. Need to adjust the trim. Find the right button for it, because normally I would have already figured out what's going wrong, because you can see that the trim is really incorrect. So here we go. So we're gonna decrease the throttle. Not too much. We're gonna have a look at the city of Perth after world update number 7. Go further downstairs, further decrease the altitude. So we can see some boats below us, right? So, and there's the city center itself. So a large, let's say, buildings, right? So that's good. Decrease further. You can see the flight simulator. That would say that the Xbox even has some issues with, say, these photogrammetry stuff. You can see that it doesn't like it. Surprised about that, to be honest. You can see that the buildings look really detailed, right? So you can see that they applied the photogrammetry here. In front of us there's a stadium. So let's say on the right, so we're flying between 2 of them. Actually 3 of them. There's looks like some stadiums and some, let's say, training fields below us. A nice bridge. Here we have the stadium, which we can also go from the top. So a lot of details here, right? You can see the details about the path and the parking spots. Looks like football or something. But performance-wise, there's a lot of improvement to do, because performance-wise, you can see that it doesn't like it sometimes.
500.
And that's surprising, right? Because this is, so to say, it's the Xbox Series X, so you would expect that it would be capable of keeping up with the good frames per second. And we should go inside the aircraft. So I'm going to increase throttle. And then we can look at the city again from inside the cockpit. Here we can see the city from outside the cockpit, or from inside the cockpit again. So let's do the different view again, because I think that's more suitable, to be honest. But first make sure that we're not crashing. So a lot of stuttering in Perth. With Sydney it was much better. At least I had the feeling that it was much better. It was at least, performance wasn't impacted that much. While we see that in for this city, even on a high spec machine, you can see that the say flyability is impacted because it's hot terrain, misty terrain. So Hopefully it will be resolved in a few days. Sometimes it's just after those rule updates, it's a little bit dense on those systems, which cause the issues. So let's see. So here ends this Flight Simulator update movie. In this movie we tried to fly over Perth. It was a little bit bumpy. Hope you liked it. If you liked it, then consider to use the like button. If you got questions or comments, then feel free to post them in the comment box below. And if you want to stay up to date about new movies I'm creating, then make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.